excited to have Michelle with us this afternoon. Michelle has been my coach and friend for, well, what, 20 years now, maybe?
Not far off.
A long time. So I thought, who better on Self-Care Saturday to bring Michelle in, the perfect person to say to us a bit about self-care. What was it you said to me, Michelle? The joy of being selfish.
The joy of being selfish. And what a wonderful act to follow. The lovely Ashley, our priestess, our high priestess. And what you've just had is an immersion into self-care, the real thing. So thank you for the introduction and thank you for inviting me. Those of you, there's a few people here that I'm not familiar with, so hello to everybody that I do know. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm a coach. I've been a coach for about 20 years. I tend to coach the rich and fabulous, to be honest with you. I've got to that stage in my career, which is rather wonderful. And I help people become the very best version of themselves. And the foundation for that, of course, is self-care. Because self-care isn't just a nice add-on, a frill. It's actually the foundation for letting the world know who you are, and what you expect. But it's the habits and the processes that you use on a daily basis to keep you emotionally, mentally, and physically, and spiritually, Ashley, I mustn't forget that, at your absolute best. And why would we spend time and money and energy and focus on things that don't take us towards being our very best as a human being? Because of course that has a knock-on effect, doesn't it? The way that you show up in the world sends out ripples to your partners, your children, your colleagues, everybody you come into contact with. So today I'd like to spend around 40 minutes just talking about self-care with you. And of course, as usual, there'll be some opportunities to ask questions and do some live coaching at the end. So what is self-care to you? Just have a think about that for you, because self-care, when I ask that question to a client, I get such a rainbow of responses. So just think about it now. What is self-care to you? And why is it important? Why would you invest 40 minutes of your life that you're never going to get back in digging a little bit deeper into self-care? Because, you know, human beings, we don't do anything without a big fat why. It's motivation and it's inspiration. Motivation is from the outside, inspiration is from the inside. Now, when you've got a nice big fat why, you are inspired to do things. That means you don't need willpower, you don't need effort. So what happens if we don't have self-care? Or if you don't have self-care? And we all have phases where our self-care goes off the rocks. And I know for me, I do love a little bit of a pity party. So I might have 3 days where my self-care is appalling. I won't clean my teeth, I won't have a shower, I won't do any exercise. But for me, that's a boundaried experience. It's something I do maybe twice a year, usually when I'm ill. And the consequences I'll share with you later. So just those questions for yourself again. What is self-care to you? Think that in your mind. Why would you do it? What happens if you don't? Do you frequently sorry, let me say that again. Do you frequently say yes to people and events to keep those around you happy? Are you a yes person? Do you find yourself becoming emotionally drained and physically exhausted, even to the point of it impacting your health? And do people describe you as, oh, you're way too nice? You're a bit of a pushover, you are. Now, if you've answered yes to any of those questions, you definitely are in the right place today. You see, every decision that you make, every choice, even though it's unconscious, most of them, create your life. So the life, the health, the wealth, the happiness, the relationship, the career that you have right now is a consequence of the choices and decisions that you've made, the priorities that you've given life historically. So the choices and decisions you make today are creating next week. That makes them pretty important, right? I had a famous actress, I won't name her, come to me as a client. And as usual, one of the first questions I asked, I said, so tell me about your self-care. She was super proud of herself. Do you know what? If she'd have had a tail, she would have wagged it. And she shook this mane of extended blonde hair and pouted these enormous lips. And she said to me, Michelle, I have a manicure, I have a pedicure and a massage every 2 weeks. My self-care is spot on. Now, any of you that know me will know that she didn't get a round of applause for me, because that's lovely, that's pampering, but it is not self-care. And herein lies a bit of confusion, because she's not the only person to have answered that question with something that is very much surface. Self-care are the rituals and the habits that we have daily that either hurt us or help us. Now, if your self-care is a bottle of vodka, a couple of shots, you know what that's doing to you. You know what it's doing to your skin, your liver, your kidneys. You know what it's doing to your mood tomorrow and to your brain chemistry. So I want to be very, very clear and say that self-care isn't always what you want. And that leads me to the lovely choice of knowing the difference between a want and a need. And many of us don't know the difference between a want and a need. So I might want that bottle of wine, but what I really need is a hug and some water. But a hug's not happening right now, and I don't like water very much. So I'm going to go with my want. Okay? Can you see how it's very easy to get self-care confused? Because we think we need something. But I want you to start asking yourself a question. When you are undertaking a self-care ritual or something that you perceive to be self-care, ask yourself how this truly helps me and how this might hurt me. So there's a lot of self-inquiry here. So if I eat processed food, I bloat up. Doesn't suit me. I don't think it suits anybody really, it's poison. But if I bloat up, I then feel fat and I don't move. If I feel fat, I don't move. That's a Zelli thing. I don't know if everybody has that. So now I've got this huge belly, none of my nice clothes fit. So guess what? I don't wear any makeup. So now I feel fat, fucked, and frumpy. Just because I chose to indulge something that wasn't self-care. It wasn't a need. It was a want that my unconscious mind led me to make me feel better in that moment. So most self-care rituals are not instant gratification. So if something is instantly gratifying, just check whether it is truly self-care or it's something to just make you feel better in the moment. If I drink wine, and I'm currently on a 5-2 regime, that's 5 days off, 2 days on. When I drink wine, I tend to want nibbles, and nibbles are never, ever a celery stick. They're full of carbs and usually gluten. So carbs turn into sugar. So I'm now going to have a sugar spike. You get my drift. Sugar is full of wine is full of chemicals, unless you have organic wine. The nibbles are full of gluten and carbs. And it all looked so innocent, didn't it? But actually, that was not self-care. I am not treating myself to anything there. So that dialogue where I say, oh, you know what? I've worked really hard this week. I'm going to treat myself to a load of toxins that are going to make me feel bad about myself. I might still choose to do it. I'm not here to create saintliness, but I want you to start thinking in real terms about what you think of as treating yourself, okay? And the consequences. And remember that domino effect. You know, in my younger days, it would be have a bottle of wine that would lead to I want a joint or a cigarette or a pack of cigarettes. Then I'm going to phone the Charlie dealer and off we go. Now, I'm way too old to do all of that now, and I'm very lucky that I stopped. But it's all on a continuum. It's all the same pattern. If you overeat, who goes into self-disgust when you overeat? Just 2 of us, 3 of us, 4 of us, 5 of us, 6 of us. Yeah. So there I am, donuts on my thing. Go and buy 6 Krispy Kremes because I'll eat them over the next few days. No, I won't. And I used to have bulimia, so I can really eat almost a donut at a time. It's quite an art. You'll never see it on camera, by the way. But then I go into self-disgust and self-loathing. Now, what happens once you start that cycle of self-loathing? You might go on to the Daily Mail celebrity page because you now want something to feed into that self-loathing, to spiral it. You're going to feel worse. Now, when we feel worse, do we treat ourselves nicely or like crap? Yeah, like crap. And if I'm treating myself like crap, what do I do then? I behave like crap. Can you see it's another self-care anti-cycle? And we all do it. There's no judgment in this whatsoever. We all do it to some lesser or greater extent. And generally, the more conscious we are, the more we tend to self-care. But still doesn't make us perfect, far from it. Mental health is really big news. At the moment, do you know that 15% of children in the United Kingdom are waiting for professional mental health care and support? That's 15%, okay? Now that doesn't take into consideration the children that aren't even in the system or are borderline or are just being medicated. We're causing a massive, massive issue because we're not teaching children self-care, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. But it comes from us because children don't do what we say, they do what we do. And they pick it up by osmosis. So for those of you who are parents, if for no other reason, your self-care is you teaching your children. You know, when I was young, which of course is when Methuselah was born, self-care wasn't even a thing. And we've created a culture where to be put your needs first, to put your self-care as a priority is called selfish. How the hell did we get here? So we're actually saying that it's okay for you to do something that makes you feel crap about yourself, that burns you out, that overwhelms you, that creates a spiral of issues for you and your family, so that you are good. Sorry about my nails, by the way. Rachie, sorry. Lockdown nails. Okay. Now, last year, 60 million antidepressant prescriptions were written. 60 million. We've got 70 million people in the country. Now, I'm not saying that that's the percentage of people on medication, but I am telling you that has gone up 30% this year. Okay, so we reckon it's going to be near 80 million prescriptions. And once again, that doesn't take into account the people that drink, drug, shag themselves into, or medicate themselves that way. Why am I bringing this into a pitch on self-care? Because self-care is the foundation for your wellness. And if you want to stay well, particularly in these crazy times, your self-care really is the route to the best you and the happiest you. Self-care is a concept that everybody can get on board with. Once you've finished looking after everybody else. The irony, huh? How many people say to me, my self-care would be really good, Michelle, I just don't have time. Hang on a minute. You don't have time to take care of your well-being, but you do have time to watch Netflix. Does that sound a little bit weird to you? But we've normalized it. We've actually normalized it. I'm here to champion the joy of being selfish. And I didn't just come up with that title. If you haven't already seen this book, it's by my client and friend, Michelle Ullman. And when we met 5 years ago, she didn't even know what a boundary was. She's now, of course, the queen of boundaries. And in that book, you will learn how to say no nicely and why you must say no nicely. And an awful lot of other very, very simplified versions of setting boundaries, which is a really important part of self-care. So whose job is it to take care of your wants and your needs? Is it yours or is it mine? Have you ever been with anybody who, when you say, should we go out to eat? Yeah, let's go out to eat. What do you fancy? Spanish, Italian, Japanese, Mongolian? I don't care. I don't mind. Whatever you want. They never know what they want, and they leave it to you to make the decision. It's absolutely exhausting, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to second guess what they need and what they want, because they're not communicating it. It's like taking a child out. But it's not, it's an adult that doesn't know their own needs and wants. Now, the person that is needless, wantless normally lives in resentment, because actually they wanted to go to the Japanese and you'd chosen the French restaurant, and they'll eat what's put in front of them. But inside, they're like, oh, I really wanted to go to the French place. Oh, God. So life becomes a disappointment. But perhaps you feel that it is polite not to assert your wants and your needs, because that's the way you were brought up. I know I was. But it's actually putting the onus on somebody else to think for you. I think it's lazy, and I think it's impolite, but that's just me. Think about what you think. When do you confuse your needs and your wants? When do you confuse your self-care with pampering, with indulgence? You're going to have trigger points. And when you understand your trigger points, which lead you down the path of no self-care, that domino effect I was speaking earlier, you're starting to understand yourself. So I know that when I'm triggered, my self-care is challenged. And triggered means that there's been an emotional trigger, okay? You feel yourself surging. What I want to do is I want to eat. That's what bulimia is. You're eating into that void, into that feeling, numbing it out. Drink is the same. So I know that if I'm triggered, I've got to double up on my self-care. Find out what yours is. Find out where your weak areas are. Know yourself is the beginning of life mastery. So selfish is often considered that you don't take into account other people's needs. You disregard other humans. Well, I want to challenge that too. I want to make selfish a positive word. It means that I regard my own needs and those of others, but I don't put mine to the back of the queue. Because if I'm on my best game and I'm emotionally, physically, spiritually, intellectually feeding my needs, can you see how that I can look after other people much better? I work coaching. I see about 20 clients a week, and they're hardcore, okay? If I am not on my best game, how am I going to serve them? How am I going to serve the people around me if I'm exhausted and frazzled? And you know what so many people do? They normalize being irritated and bad-tempered. All because they haven't put their self-care first, because they are too scared or too numb or too unconscious to realize that they need to take an hour out a day for themselves. And that hour out a day makes the difference between putting us on balance and out of balance. And who the hell are we to spill our irritation and our bad moods and our bad behaviors over other people because our self-care isn't right? Can you see how selfish that could be seen as? And there's no doubt about it. So lack of self-care changes your mood. And it's not okay to normalize irritability, bad temper. Even Lily agrees. You couldn't have made up her timing there, could you? So when our own needs are not being met, what happens? We get angry. Almost all anger is as a result of our needs not being met. Let me say that again. Almost all anger is as a result of our needs not being met. But here's a rub. We haven't told anybody what our needs are, and we haven't taken responsibility for having them met. And then we get angry because we feel like we don't matter. We're not being seen, we're not being heard, we're not being understood. But it starts with us and our rituals, our habits, and our commitments. True story. Yesterday, my client, and we're going to call him Alex, came to session with his wife. We have a joint session once a week. And Alex has started getting up at 4:30 in the morning. And his missus is really pissed because it wakes him up, or wakes her up, excuse me. So she's now wants to sleep in the other room. And she was calling Alex selfish. But actually, the reason that Alex is getting up at 4:30 in the morning is to be on his best game. He must do exercise. Him not doing exercise is not good news. He must meditate. He clears his head. He's the CEO of an investment bank, so you can imagine he's got quite a stressful job. He also shares the homeschooling. Now, in order to get all of that done, he has to put his self-care as a priority, because otherwise his homeschooling would just be Sergeant Major shouting. He would be irritable and probably not his best at work. And he would be really resentful of his wife. She was calling him selfish. What do you think? I think that's pretty selfless. And how damned responsible is that? That he knows that he needs those 2 hours in the morning to get himself started, to have his best possible day with the kids, with his team, with his missus, and with himself. I also checked on Alex this morning and the missus. And this morning he went off to his freezing lake and dunked in it for 1 minute, because that's what he felt he needed. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that you rush off and do that, but I thought, what a wonderful, wonderful guy. He really does know himself and takes care of his needs so that he can take care of his responsibilities as his best self. So there are people, of course, who are selfless. Those are the people that never say no and that are usually frazzled and burnt out. But you can rely on them to always turn up to anything you invite them to. They'll always do you a favor, pretty much 24/7, at any cost to themselves. Ask yourself, really, is that selfless? Because the reality with a human being is we will only do things that our unconscious mind believes serves us. So those selfless people are actually looking to be validated. The reason you can't say no is because you're fearing upsetting somebody else. And if you're fearing upsetting somebody else, you're not being true to yourself. You're not being your adult self. Because supposing Ashley says to me, hey, Shell, can you come up and do a day's gig for me? You know, I've got something up in Yorkshire and I'm already frazzled, but I want to please her, which of course I do. What are the chances of me arriving on my best game? What is it that's going to suffer in order to please her? So I would say, Ashley, I'd love to. And it's always a pleasure to work together, but I won't be doing us any favors because I'm already frazzled. How easy was that? You see, somebody's response to you isn't about you, it's about them. When somebody judges you, it's about them, it's not about you. You can't possibly live your life second guessing what somebody's thinking or judging. And do you really want to be living your life according to somebody's whim of a judgment? Because you know what judgment's about, don't you? It's about making ourselves feel better or worse. See, if I'm on a downer, what I'll do is I'll go look for people that I think are better than me. So I'll judge myself badly. But if I'm feeling rather good about myself, what am I going to see? I'm going to look for the people that reinforce, hey, you know what? I'm pretty good. I'm on a good roll here. Judgment is not part of self-care. Judging others, being judged, judging yourself. Self-compassion and kindness are the basis of all self-care. So when you screw up, you're kind to yourself. When did beating yourself up ever truly help you? When did it help you be the person you're proud of being? Again, it's counterintuitive because we think, oh, if I tell myself off, then I won't do it again. Well, how's that worked out? We all know that that's crap, that we keep doing it. When I do something that I'm not proud of, I sit down and I talk to myself like my best friend. And I just say, I'm not sure why you did that, sweetheart. What's going on? And there's a little shame attack going on inside me. And I say, it's okay. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. Took your eye off the ball. That's the kind of self-talk that will help you change. It really will. And it's the foundation for self-care. So things we normalize, putting other people's needs first, tolerating judgmental people. And by the way, if somebody's judging somebody else, so they're, hey, look at her, doesn't she look fat in that? Doesn't her hair look crap? And blah, 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 blah. Trust me, they're judging you and they're judging themselves. It's just their stuff. It's not about you. You could be absolutely perfect. And actually you are. And they'll still find something because they need to judge to make themselves feel better, okay? Uninvited opinions. Hey, I really don't like your hair. Somebody said to me when I went blonde, white, whatever color I am, oh, I don't like your hair. I much preferred you brunette. It's like, I give a fuck? No. Why do you need to tell me that? What was really going on for them? And when I dug a little bit deeper, what it was is that they weren't brave enough to make a choice of reinventing themselves. Now, they may or may not have liked my hair. I never bothered to ask. But when we inquired, it was actually their fear of changing themselves. And she was resentful because she said, you reinvent yourself like that. You have no fear. It's not particularly true. I do have fear. I just don't let it run my life. So I hope some of these nuggets are sparking new thoughts, new perceptions for you. What other things do we normalize? Worrying about other people's opinions rather than our own. Imagine if you lived life just based on what you think of yourself. That's self-care. That's really good self-care. My only job is to behave as a human. And I really like myself. Just imagine if that was your only mission. Every night you ask yourself, do I like who I was today? And if the answer is yes, you're absolutely in line. If the answer is no, don't beat yourself up. What is it that you didn't like about yourself today? Okay, change it. Boom. And I mean change it. Not talk about changing it. Don't try and change it. Stop giving yourself choices. Get really clear about what you want to change. Doing things we really don't want to do in case it would offend someone else. Remember, we talked about that. Not getting enough sleep, health, food, exercise, time in nature, time to ourselves. We normalize skimping on the things that make us feel okay. I haven't started work before 11 o'clock in the morning since I was 41. Why? Because I know that I like to get up leisurely. I like to do my things. And if I don't do nature, a walk, and a little bit of, I don't meditate, but I do something that would be similar, the rest of the day isn't great. So I was managing director of a large TV company. I negotiated that role starting at 11 a.m. which was great. Russell Brand was one of my biggest clients, and he never, ever showed up early in the morning. So actually it worked. I didn't know that. He wasn't a client when I got the job. But I was brave enough to put up my needs. And when I said to the chairman who was interviewing me, and we're talking a chunky, it was a lot of money that I was earning. It was a very responsible role. But when I said to him, look, yeah, I can start at 9 in the morning, but you're not going to get the best of me. Why don't I start at 11? I'll have done everything I need to do, so I'm totally focused. Everybody will have started work, and then I'm working in flow, in the groove. He bought it. But how many of you are brave enough to really ask for what you need? My coaching, my clients know I don't start work with them before usually 1 o'clock. Why? Same reason. I walk, play with the dog, get my face on, do some exercise, play in nature, take some photographs, do my social media, and then I'm fully present. I'm speaking to you about this because I want to convey, again, when you've got the balls to ask for your needs to be met, you'll be amazed what people say back. You will be amazed what I was going to say get away with. I mean, that's how you look at it, really. But because we don't ask, we've normalized just showing up to other people's beat. Don't do that. Life's too short. You're too important. Your best game is at stake here. And most people say they're too busy for self-care, which is always a funny one, really, because if you're too busy for your self-care, then that means you're putting everything else as a priority. Now, you already know, those of you who've worked with me and who know me, that 80% of your results come from 20% of your activity. If you don't already know that, please write it down. 80% of your results come from 20% of your activity. Now imagine if you knew what that 20% was and you let go of most of the other 80%, which is erroneous. You do it because it's habit, because you think you should. That 20% is your gold. Now, when you start getting really smart about how you're getting your goals met and achieving, you're going to free up some time. Look at the people who are most successful in the field that you are in. I guarantee you that they put self-care as a priority. You can't be successful without self-care. You can hit a high goal, okay? You can't sustain it. You'll burn out, you're going to overwhelm, or you will use toxins to support you. And that's not sustainable. If you're firefighting a lot, and that means having to check things, do things twice, sweep up, mop up mistakes, you're not fully present. And you can only self-care by being present. Being present means I'm not thinking about what happened yesterday and I'm not worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. It means focusing on who I am today, the decisions I'm making, how I'm feeling, what I want and what I need. And that might sound easy. At least 80% of the people I know are busy fools. Oh, so busy. Oh, got to be here, got to be there, got to do this, got to do that. When I start to actually say, hang on a second, let's just look at this schedule that you've given yourself. We can knock out half of it. It's ego driven. I need to be seen. I need to be heard. I need to be, no, you don't. You need to behave in a way you're proud of. You need to be present. You can only change and grow and self-heal in the present. So I started this presentation by asking you, what is self-care to you? So what are you thinking about now when you think about self-care? How do you use your mind? Your mind is constantly creating. It's its job. Anybody that says they're not creative just doesn't understand the mind. I didn't think I was creative for years, in fact, up until I was old. And actually, I'm a really creative bunny, but so are all of you. Just because you might not be able to paint or sing or write a song doesn't mean you're not creative. Your brain is constantly creating. It is creating problems. It's creating catastrophes. It's creating a to-do list. It's creating a crisis. It's creating fear. And if it's doing all of those things or any of those things, it's because you're not managing it. Your brain is creative. It is a genius bit of kit. There is not one computer in the world, and we don't even begin to believe that we can replicate the sophistication of the brain. It's 3 pounds of absolute genius. But the number of people that know how to manage their brain is less than 1%, in my opinion. Your brain is almost certainly your master. It was never meant to be. Your brain is supposed to be your servant. So I want you to think about being conscious, consciously aware of what you're thinking about, what your brain is creating. Stories. Most people live in a story. Oh, I do that because, oh yeah, well, it's because my parents taught me to do that. That's how it was when I was growing up. That's just who I am. Everybody does it like that. All of that is absolute bollocks, by the way. What that is your get out of jail card. It's you giving yourself an excuse not to change. The wonders of Zoom and having a dog. So write down your self-care rituals. What are they? Make a little list of them. And if you haven't got a pen and paper handy, think about it. What do you do every day to invest in you being on your best game? Exercise, dancing, walking, gym, yoga, meditation, turning off the screens, drinking water, taking your ketones. You might well laugh. These babies have saved my life. Unbelievable. Focus on what you want more of in your life. Focus on what you can control. Most people are not focused. I've recently started working with a Facebook group that aren't my normal clients. And I have been unbelievably shocked. I didn't think I could get shocked how unfocused people are. No wonder people don't achieve their wealth, their health, their wisdom. You know, if we were driving from here to Glasgow and we did it zigzagging from Norwich to Bristol and like that, we're never going to get there. We'd run out of petrol. The wheels would would fall off. We'd get bored. If you're serious about having a life that you're really proud of and excited about, you've got to focus. You really have. And that comes back to thinking about what you're thinking about. That's called conscious awareness. So stop moaning and judging self and others. If you don't like something, accept it or change it. Everything else is just a waste of time. Know what you want in life and know who you want to be, and say no to everything that is not that. Stop giving yourself these get out of jail cards. Your self-care is much more than doing a bit of meditation and a bit of yoga. Your self-care is really the first place is about your mind. It's your mental disciplines. Stop tolerating toxic behaviors from others. Learn to say no. It's a complete sentence. You don't need to justify yourself. Ask for what you need and what you want. It's your job, not anybody else's. What you put in your body dictates how you feel, and it will dictate your health. Processed food is poison. Sugar is crack. Obesity now kills more people than smoking. Can you believe that? Regulate your hormones. If you're anywhere around the 40 or upwards mark, take care of your hormones. And what do you put into your mind? What do you watch? What do you listen to? What do you talk about? Are you growing? Or are you dying? Or are you addicted to the misery of soaps and gossip and celebrity culture? How much weight she's put on since she's had a baby? Is he having an affair? Is that really how we're spending our lives? Imagine filling yourself up with goodness, nourishment and goodness. And hey, I'm not going to whip out a tambourine and tell you that you've got to do one way or another. But if you nourish yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, you will be on your full beam. You will be the best you can be. And you'll be proud to be that person. And the other stuff will fall away, because that's how it works. So that is it from me. But I'd love to take any questions that you have, and very happy to help you in any way I can. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're very, very welcome. So who's going to ask me a question? Oh, we've got a question there from Lisa.
Lisa, you need to unmute yourself, darling.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you, Michelle. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I just have this thing. I mean, you know, I can generally positive and I do embrace self-care, but I have this little self-sabotage in my mind going on sometimes about, I don't know how people perceive me in business. It's just like I can crack on with stuff, and then this little thing goes in my brain. I don't know what it is, but like,
I'll tell you what it is. Could you tell me how you think you're perceived in business?
yeah. And I know it's positive, but I then have these little.
Just tell me what is your fear that you're being perceived as?
Oh, that's a question. I can't wholeheartedly answer that. It's quite a few things. Just
go with one. Let's go with one.
That I maybe am not competent enough, or
okay, that's fine. That's enough. So what we got there is a beautiful example of what's called projection. Okay. So if I said to you, Lisa, do you know what? Women in business with blue hair, I just don't think they should be in business. They're not my gig. Is it having an impact on you?
No.
Right. Why is that not having an impact on Lisa? Because she doesn't believe she has blue hair. Okay. What's happening is that Lisa is projecting her fear that she believes she is not competent. The only time we project our fears on another person by thinking they're believing that about us rather than owning our own fears. So for you, Lisa, all you need to do is so simple. You make a list of all the fears that you think, everything you think people are thinking of you, okay? Make a list of every single one and own it. It's what you believe to be true about yourself. Then ask yourself, what do I need to do to feel competent? I wasn't sure if it was competent. Or
it's just, I do feel competent, but there's this little niggly little voice inside me every now and again. It's like, when I post stuff on LinkedIn, or this little tiny thing in my brain.
You're not hearing me. That little voice
Yeah.
is you. It is your belief about yourself. It is nothing to do with anybody else.
No, it's true.
So stop worrying about other people, because that's your ego. You see, if your ego can get you to worry about what other people are thinking, you'll never deal with this. It's just completely sidetracked you. So whatever you worry that other people are believing about you, it's your shit. Okay?
Yeah. All right. Okay. That's, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, who have we got there? Is it Amir?
Yeah. It's Scarlett.
Scarlett. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
You are so glorious and divine. I can't even deal with you. I wanted to ask you, our parents, actually, I'm going to use your mum as an example as well. My dad is a very pessimistic soul, and he judges everything and everyone, and he's quite angry. And Amir's mum, if I may say, is quite addicted to drama, negative. How do you, as a child, because you said if you don't like it, take yourself out of that situation. And I feel my beautiful mum passed away a few years ago. So I feel very obliged to have to look after my dad and be around him a lot, because almost take care of him in that way. But he's constantly negative and judging. But how do you remove yourself to the point where you're like, I can't let that affect me, but I still need to be your daughter and play that role?
Okay, so how old's your dad?
66.
Oh gosh, he's young. Okay, so look, if I give you an orange, Scarlett, and you squeeze it, what's going to come out?
Juice.
Apple juice, grapefruit juice? Okay, so dad's judgment and pessimism and anger is showing you what he has inside him.
Correct.
Awfully sad and horrible way to live.
Mm-hmm.
Chances of him changing at 66 are pretty negligible, right? So there's a couple of things to do here. Number one, understand that his judgment, anger, and pessimism is never, it's not about you. Okay, so just understanding that this is dad, and you'll remember this now. When he behaves in those ways, you'll just think of squeezing an orange, okay? And he's just spitting out what's inside of him. So you could show him enormous compassion. Now, that's going to take you so far, but there's going to come a point where you might need to boundary him. Does he judge you?
Sometimes, yeah, he does, yeah.
Okay, so this is where a boundary comes in, okay? And you say a boundary would be something like, Dad, I love you to the moon and back. And when you say that, it really hurts me. Please don't say it again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't once get personal. I didn't raise my voice. It was a boundary said with love. Okay, and I'll let you into a secret, Scarlett, sorry. I met my dad when I was 41, and he is the most pessimistic, judgmental, angry creature I've ever met, okay? He was hardcore. And I didn't know, I didn't have the tools that I have now. And it was like being battered around like a shuttlecock. It was just, I didn't know where the next thing was going to come from. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. And when I was learning the work, so eventually I started to put boundaries down. He's the most positive person with me now. He actually he's almost toxic positivity. It's like, drives me around the bloody bend. There's no judgment whatsoever. Okay, I mean, I'm sure inside there is, but he doesn't share it. And if he gets angry, he just tootles off out the room. Because when he got angry, it really used to upset me. I had a very angry adopted dad. So I'm not good with when a man gets very angry, I kind of shrink or I go the other way. And I just said to him, you know, Dad, when you do that, I don't want to be here. And he likes me visiting him. So just by being, and can you hear what I'm doing is I'm explaining really gently and kindly my needs. So I would do that. And remember that squeezed orange every time, but so there is tolerance, there's love, there's compassion, but there's also a line here when it gets too much. And Amir, your mum, drama and negativity, same kind of thing. Think of the orange, but the drama is creating external compelling stories so she doesn't have to feel what she feels inside. So slightly different to Scarlett's dad. Okay, but people, remember I said about people who are addicted to soap operas? Misery loves company.
Yeah,
Really does.
definitely my mum. And it's funny because I realized that a while back, and I just stopped allowing that to affect me. And I have to keep reminding her. I was like, Mum, stop having a strong relationship with drama and stress. Like, stop it. Like, it's enough. You know, you're killing yourself. It's insane.
I suspect that she's addicted to the stress hormones. So you've got cortisol, adrenaline, and 52 other stress hormones that every time she gets involved in a drama is flooding. It's like having a coke dealer, you know, a black BMW with dark windows outside your door, there just for the taking.
Yeah.
And we get addicted to our own stress chemicals. They also will kill us.
Yeah, you know, and it's so strange because my mum's Iranian, so she comes from a different ethnic background where everything's heightened, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes when she phones me, she doesn't say, "Amir, how are you?" It's like, "Amit, I've broken a cup. Oh my God, call the police!" You know, and it's just like, "Mum, whoa, relax. Like, it's just a cup. Like, forget about it." You know.
Their energy coming out. You know, again, you're not going to change her. Pick your battles, learn where to boundary. And you can actually say, Mum, your energy right now, I just can't handle it.
Yeah.
You know, and I've got a couple of friends that are really, you know, love a bit of drama. And I have to do that. And I just have to say, I can't at the moment. I am too fragile.
It's exhausting, yeah.
It's just making sure that your needs are being voiced.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
You're very, very welcome. Anybody else?
Hey, Zelli, it's Bex.
I beg, who said what?
Zelli, it's Bex. Can you hear me?
Where are you?
My camera's not working.
Oh, okay. I can't even see your name. Hello, Bex.
Oh, it's Ian, that's why.
Got it. There you go. I can see your black space. Do you have a question?
I do, darling. Just a quick one. You touched on toxic people. I don't actually attract or hang out with toxic people. But what happens if you have to work for toxic people? And their toxics are rubbing off on you badly.
Okay, so is it a toxic culture or is there a toxic person?
Culture.
You leave, darling. You're not going to change a culture.
Thank
But-
you. That's the right thing.
But Bex, there is another thing here.
Okay.
The question is, and please don't feel you've got to answer this, why were you attracted to a toxic culture? There's something there. Our unconscious mind always knows what we're going into, okay? Now, consciously, we rarely do, but there's something there. So if I take you out of that toxic culture and I ask you to go down your timeline historically, I suspect you will find there's always been a drip, drip, drip of toxicity from somewhere. And when that toxicity moves away, something else takes over.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I saw it as a challenge.
It's not.
And I saw it as that I could help them at the same time. But yeah. So I did the right thing, I've left.
Yeah, absolutely, it's the right thing you've left. And watch out for where you're going to create toxicity again.
Perfect. Lovely. Thank you.
Lovely to not see you.
Yes. I even did my hair and there's a lot of it right now.
Oh, I heard. Okay, I've got time for one more. Have I, Rach?
Yeah, you're good, darling. You're fine.
Okay, Ashley.
Hello.
Hello, darling.
I'm not sure I have a specific question, but perhaps you can speak to what I feel I wish what came up for me when you were speaking. It was that when you were speaking a lot about, I just felt very emotional.
I saw.
And I think I'm in a process recently of discovering that I feel like I'm finding my voice. I feel like I'm learning how to ask for what I want. And it feels uncomfortable sometimes. In that it's okay to ask for what I want. And when you just speaking a lot about validation and I don't really know why I got so emotional about it all, but it feels like everything you were talking about, it was like, oh God, it's exhausting. It's exhausting being that way, and moving away from that feels uncomfortable but necessary. So I guess it's, how do you transition yourself from those patterns?
The conscious awareness, my love. So once you know where you're not getting your needs met, look for the equal and opposite, where you, with the needs that you do want met. Okay, go make a priority list. Okay, don't try and get them all met at once. Okay, put them in a hierarchy and pick them off one by one. Now, the interesting thing with humans is we forget very quickly, and look at us in lockdown. You know, humans adapt incredibly well, and that's why we've been such a successful species. So what I would do is pick your top one, and then one a bit further down the list. Like, I don't know. I like someone to remember that I take sugar in my coffee, whatever, something. So something small and something big, and then start to communicate. Now, remember, when we start to do anything, it's uncomfortable. That's why we stay in our comfort zone, because what we have become to know, even if it's really shitty, is comfortable because we know we can survive it, and our unconscious mind will allow that to continue. So anything, whenever we grow, we go into our stretch zone, not panic, stretch. So the discomfort is fine, but be compassionate with yourself about the discomfort. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Right, darling. Rachel, did you have a question, my darling?
No, I think I'm all good. Thanks, darling.
Okay. So thank you for showing up today. Thank you for listening and showing up for yourself as well. And as I say, if I'm not on commission, I have written a chapter, but trust me, I'm not getting any royalties. This is a book for anybody that struggles with boundaries. It literally is written for you to be able to take chunks away and go and make the changes that you need, and boundaries will change your life. If you haven't yet discovered ketones, please look at them. They are the most extraordinary technology. They're completely natural, bioidentical, vegan friendly, and they have changed my life and Rachel's. The most extraordinary things in a packet. And on that note, I'd like to wish you a fantastic rest of the weekend. I hope I've convinced you to put your self-care, real self-care, up to the top of the pile. Lots of love.